All right, so why are some girls really into like aggressive stuff?
Like
Like really?
like rape.
Yeah.
I
Do you have that as a?
Yes, I did. Okay. It's fading, but I did have that kink after my sexual assault.
Oh
So that's
So it
kind of
actually triggered.
so it triggered that kink, and that's kind of why I dyed my hair blonde, right? Because I was like, I'm going to accept that this is a part of me right now, and like it may not be me forever, I may not be always into it, but I'm going to be okay with it for now because I need to love myself in order to heal past everything that has happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people don't have choices in those things, right? Like people don't go like, oh my God, like today I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna have a weird ass kink that I feel so gross about. And, just like no one does that, like there is like, I felt so disgusted with myself when I realized the stuff I was getting into. And I didn't even find out like on purpose, it was like purely by accident. I was like on Reddit looking through stuff, like Ask Reddit After Dark. And they were like, oh, here's some subs that are interesting. And I like pressed one and I was like, oh. And then I was like, oh,
Oh.
I was like,
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, and I don't think that I'm necessarily a part of a community that can be considered like, I don't think I'm not into rape kink anymore.
Right.
But the story of going into it was kind of, I was sexually assaulted. I didn't acknowledge it for about a month. I didn't think that anything bad had happened. I thought it was just something that had, I always chase like exciting things. So I was like, oh, well, I like felt an adrenaline rush when I was like being assaulted.
It's like, I don't want to compare it to, anything less than what it is, but it's on a much smaller level. It's similar to why people eat like spicy food or watch horror movies, and then that's like the most extreme version of that, right?
Yes.
It's like that same
That is
similar
the most
rush. Would you say it's similar?
I definitely would. It's kind of like that roller coaster when it happened and you're like, and this is just like my experience, right? Like everyone's experience is different, but like when it happened, like I went to the bathroom and I sat down, I like was like, oh my God, like I should stop this, but why do I feel so great, right? And then I went to the bathroom, I sat down and I was like, heart pounding, head racing, adrenaline rushing, which is all things that you feel, when you're falling in love, having like an orgasm, or like just like experiencing something that's amazing, or even roller coasters, and you're like, whoa, like I don't know how to feel about this. And then like I like in my head, I couldn't face the fact that I had lost control of my body, that someone had taken over my control and had done something without me saying yes. And this wasn't my first like sexual assault. Like I've been sexually assaulted like a number of times, and I've never faced it. I always just was like, oh my God, like this guy did this to me, that was so gross. And everyone around me was like, oh my God, like that's so gross, are you okay? And we're all like, ew. But like I never acknowledged that like, hey, like I was taken advantage of like numerous times in various ways. Not to the point where it like was like penetration, but like in numerous ways. I did things that I was like, I don't want to be doing this, but I guess we're doing this, and now I have to be okay with it because I don't want to face the fact that that happened to me, because I'm in control. Like I'm someone who needs to be in control, like I need to know that I can take care of my body, and that fear, just the fact that someone can do that to me, I can't face that, or I couldn't, but now I can.
There we go.
Right? And so when that rush happened, I made the decision that, subconsciously, that I would accept it, that I would pretend I had somehow allowed that to happen. But and then a month later, I started noticing that I was into these weird things, like, rape culture and like kinks and stuff. And I would read things and I'd be like, why am I not disgusted anymore? Why am I turned on? And actually, this is a really common thing. And like the reason I want to talk about this video is I kind of want to shed light on the fact that people who have been raped, a portion of them, and I don't know the statistics because I don't really Google these things, but like I do know that a portion of them are like, they almost get hypersexualized by themselves. They want to like sleep around or like, just do things. And that's because it's kind of like putting yourself back in that situation and reliving it.
To prove that you can take control of it.
I put myself here this time. I was the one who allowed myself to be in this space. So of course, like that first time, clearly I did the same thing. It's almost kind of like making up for it. At least
Right.
that's my theory. I don't know if it's really exposure therapy. Me with my psych degree, don't know. But I would say it's kind of like going into an experience again, but making it
Like
my
changing
narrative.
the conditions around the experience.
Changing the narrative, yeah.
Changing the narrative. That's a really good way of
Yeah.
explaining that. Yeah.
Changing the narrative. Did I get raped? Or sexually assaulted? Did I get sexually assaulted? Or did I allow myself because I chose to be there, you know? In my
Yeah.
very weird accent.
In a way, doesn't that kind of take accountability away from the person who did
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's saying you didn't do that. I did.
And that's kind of a problem, right?
Yes, because then people start to fetishize it on both ends, and then you start wanting more because you're like, I want all this control. And like, you know, my version wasn't severe. I talked to my therapist. She almost sent me to a trauma therapist, but we decided, you know, well, I personally just decided I didn't want to make this a big deal. But like, we talked about it and I cried about it. I acknowledged that something had happened to me that was out of my control. And I was not only about this sexual assault, but like about the past ones that, you know, I didn't want that guy's tongue in my mouth. I didn't want to be dragged from a room, you know, and have a bunch of guys like take pictures of me making out with someone just for like a frat game, or I don't know what it was, you know?
That's
And then
fucked up.
yeah, and then to have that guy like physically dragged from a room when you're screaming for help and you're just kind of saying, no, I want to be back there, because you just don't know where they'll take you, and literally looking around and no one will stop it, it makes you feel powerless. And like, I just remember, you know, like the hands like grabbing me, like forming like bruises the next day, like bruises on my lip the next day, bruises like just in places, and you're just like, you know, like I held onto that door frame for like eternity, it feels like, just trying to say no in some like shape or form or way that someone will understand, but like you're still dragged out. And like I was lucky because some girl like walked by, and the only thing I remember is that I liked her bralette. All I remember is I thought her bralette, the little lace straps, were so pretty, and that just hit me, and I grabbed her around the neck, and I just like reverted to a defense mechanism. I was like, oh my God, I like love your bralette, because everyone thought I was drunk. I was sober as fuck. And then like I whispered in her ear, like, save me. And then I just like clung onto her as she dragged me somewhere else. And then like I never saw her face. I don't know who the fuck she is. And I don't, like, I'm just grateful that she had a bralette. And that's the only thing that made me feel like kicked me into action, because for many moments, I thought that like I was just some object, you know?
Yeah.
And that happened 4 years ago, that first time. And the next time happened weeks after that. And then, but it still, like, it changed me in ways that I don't think I'll ever know, because I didn't understand. But I think like I really thought that I was nothing more than like a hot body, or not even a hot body, just a body for someone to use, kind of like, oh, like, I like this toy, let me play with it. Oh no, now I'm growing up, whatever, I don't want it anymore. But like that's all I felt like. I felt like Woody, like fucking like Woody and like Buzz Lightyear and like Andy's discarded toys, like ready to be picked up whenever, but like under the bed with dust bunnies when I wasn't, you know. And nothing else about me mattered. It didn't matter that like I went to Berkeley, that I was like Regents, which everyone thought was like amazing. I didn't feel that person. I was an imposter. I was nothing. I was just an empty body. So yeah. And to experience something like that in one of your first few weeks of college, to have everyone around you normalize it. You know, I vividly remember one of my friends saying, are you sure the taste of his tongue is still in your mouth, or are you just over exaggerating? And to have to keep up this persona, because, you know, you're a freshman, you want to be like cool, you don't want to be problematic, you want to be tough, and maybe this is what adults deal with, and maybe that's what, you know, that's just what happens. But just to go into a class 4 years later and to find out the guy is still here, to have to work in groups with him, to sit behind another of the guys that assaulted me that year, and for him to recognize me and try to talk to me and hit on me, it just, you can't focus on school, you know? Like, you can't be who you want to be, because at the end of the day, there's just these constant reminders that, like, you aren't nothing more than just something fun for a night, or even half a night, because a whole night isn't even, you're not even worth that. So yeah. So that was me. And then the last assault was my best friend. And, you know, we've already talked about this, but just even someone that I trusted so much that I thought I could run to if something bad to me happened to, like, if something bad happened to me, I could run to him, he'd protect me. But apparently he was the guy who, like, would do something bad, and he wouldn't even know it. He wouldn't even think that it's bad, and I don't blame him. And I don't want to talk about this with him, because I don't think that many people, when faced with accusation, will be able to see things enough to put aside their ego enough to be like, yeah, I did that to you, you know? Instead, they'll just be like, no, like, that's not true. And, you know, like, I don't need some fucking guy's approval or closure or whatever to get my own closure. Like, I am fine in the sense that I have grown stronger from that. I have learned from that, and, like, next time I will say no in ways that they'll understand. And if I see something else happening, like, I'll make sure that that girl or whoever it was will be okay. But that doesn't take away the fact that I did have a kink after this. It doesn't take away from the fact that all of this happened and it made me into someone that I would be so disgusted to be, you know? And there was this video, the reason I realized that this guy had sexually assaulted me, that my best friend had sexually assaulted me, was because my boyfriend was watching a video of, you know, that gymnast, the Olympic gymnast, like, coach who, like, sexually assaulted hundreds of, like, gymnasts.
Oh yeah, yeah.
whatever Liam, whatever, something, I don't know. He was in court, and one of the gymnasts who had been sexually assaulted, her dad tried to throw punches at him, and you could, you know, and the cops were holding him back, and he was on the ground, and he just kept screaming, like, I'm going to kill the son of it, like, just give me a minute, or give me a room, just give me 5 minutes with the son of a bitch, you know, like. And I think that broke me. That made me acknowledge that something had happened to me that wasn't okay, because, like, I needed someone to be that person for me. Like, I needed, like, someone to
validate how messed up it is. It's like you see this person getting so mad about this thing, and I was like, wait a second, I went through that, and I didn't know to treat it like that, right?
Yeah, and it's like, growing up, like, I've always, like, my parents have always considered me independent. Like, a lot of my issues stem from the fact that I felt like my own mother, I felt like my own father, I felt like my younger brother's parents, almost. And so to have something bad happen to me, it was like, no, it can't happen to me. Like, I'm not allowed to process this, because I need to take care of X, Y, and Z. I need to take care of everyone else. Like, I'm the one who's independent. I'm the one who's tough. I'm the one who's drinking a Capri Sun, you know? Because I bought it myself, because I am my own, like, caretaker. Yes, Capri Sun.
Yeah.
We're sponsored.
I love it.
We love fruit punch. Get your fruit punch in Targets right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so having to come to terms with all of that, and still coming to terms with all that, it's rough. And a lot of people that I, you know, see in, like, the rape kink community are just like, I don't want this, you know? Or, like, in the moment they were like, you know, I did something to kind of, like, rape bait, and then when it started happening, I didn't want it. But afterwards I was like, wow. It's kind of like you go on a roller coaster, and just as you're going up, the adrenaline's building, and you're like, holy fuck, I don't want to experience this. I don't, like, why did I get on this roller coaster? And then you go and you're done, and you're like, that was amazing, let's go again. Because, like, you know, like, that was a rush. Mm-hmm. And, like, all those emotions, the bad and the good, all sum up to an experience that your body craves, because it's a surge. And, well, like, what do you do when you get a surge of emotions? You want it again, because we want to feel something in some way, right? Mm-hmm. And so that ties in with the lack of control and having to feel control. And then, like, these kinks happen. And a lot of times people who are abused go back to their abusers, or, you know, like, just want it again. And, like, me before I experienced anything, or like before I even faced that I had like experienced anything bad, I was like, why would you go back to, like, that's like, you're dumb. But now I'm like, okay, like I get it, because your brain tries to protect yourself and like protect itself, and it's like, hey, let's make this like a good thing, you know, or something that like wasn't that bad, because that's so traumatic, and like facing that would destroy so many of us. And yeah, that's it.
Well, you seem very mature about it, and very, like, I can tell just by the way you're talking, you've definitely, it's taken you a while to finally get to this state of this being content with everything.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, it's like you've had this conversation with yourself so many times.
Oh yeah.
Just in silence.
Yeah. It's like, you don't know what's going on in people's minds. Like, I'm working at a lab, I'm planting plants all day, I'm, you know, working with scientists all day, we're talking about the most boring things ever. And in my head, I'm reliving this. In my head, I'm like, God, Valerie, like, how could you do that? Like, how could you be that person? You know, and I'm trying to work it out, and you just don't know. But yeah, there have been countless times where I've just cried over the person that I could have been without all these things happening to me. And the thing that's interesting is I don't talk to that person anymore. And, you know, and the thing is, like, as soon as I acknowledged that he had sexually assaulted me, the next day I started missing him. I started romanticizing the fact that he was my best friend. Not romanticizing in like a loving way, but like, oh my God, I miss this person in my life. We had so many great memories. It's like, why? Because your brain is trying to protect you again. And it's like, I get it. This quote that I really do like is that people go to therapy to deal with problems that people who don't go to therapy have caused on them. And so, like, therapy has helped me. So like, another sponsor, therapy, go.
Yes, to all the viewers, therapy. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Try it sometime.
Yes.
Go to therapy, kids.
Yeah, but it's like, without my therapist and without having someone, because therapy is just having someone nurture you and love you and validate you and be like, yeah, something fucking awful happened to you, dude. It's okay to be sad about it. It's okay to be weak.
Yeah, everyone needs some sort of outlet for the negativity that they kind of soak up, whether it's some people push it onto their kids, some people push it into creative outlets, some people put it into drugs. Yeah, some people bring it to their therapist, and some would say that the therapy option is a pretty good one.
I would say it's a little better. Yes, you might have to pay your copay. Good Lord, God forbid. Like, finances suck, but like, copay, or like, do you want to be an alcoholic? Like, the amount of alcohol that I went through after the first two experiences, the amount of clothing I shed, was it worth it? Or should I just have paid like $50 for a weekly appointment, you know? I don't know. Booze is expensive.
Yes, well, that's a very easy takeaway if people don't know what to do. Therapy. Just go. And I think
just do it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize that they need to go to therapy.
Oh.
I'm smiling now, not because of this is a very fun topic, but because I'm just so excited to see how, just the way that you've kind of come back from all of this, you know? It just makes me so happy.
I will bounce back through whatever.
Yes.
Did I go through like awful shit that like everyone experiences? Yes. Does it make it any less valid? No. Am I still gonna be better? Yes. Am I still gonna make like very, very non-subtle depressed jokes about like things that shouldn't be joked about? Yes. And I'm fine. Like, I'm not fine, but like
you're fine.
But like, I'm thriving in ways that, you know, like, plants will grow tall even if there's like smoke in the air, because everything that happens, you can't let it like deter you from being who you are. Like, I am gonna live on a farm in Thailand, like this, like at the edge of an elephant sanctuary, and just like be like the weird like hobo lady who lives in a hut and shovels their poop, but like no one wants me to be shoveling elephant poop, but I will do it because that's what I want to fucking do. Like, I will not be a volunteer at the sanctuary. I will be doing it because they can't force me away, because I will do what I want, because I love myself. Hopefully.
Fuck yeah.
Someday.
I'm gonna give you a hug right now. That was.
Aww.
Okay.
Come here.
The mic up. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.